we are the lifeblood of our own scene. You know, we keep it alive. It's kind of like this nation that just covers the globe that agrees. Chaotic beehive of people kicking the shit out of each other. And sometimes they would dogpile, and the dogpile would roll up like a blob across the front monitor wedges. And weirdest call ever. This guy said he's in a band called Death. They're 2 towns over, about a 10-minute drive. And what do we got to lose? We never heard of a band called Death, who knew? Because he was always saying like, oh, I like the way that is, but maybe give me a little more, do something a little more outside the box. That was part of my developmental years, and that voice has always been in my head telling me, push it, push it. People just getting rid of all their frustrations and aggressions and enjoying music. That's what keeps everybody into it, because it's a big pile of awesome violence. What's up? Steve DiGiorgio, bassist of Testament, and we're here on the Bay Strikes Back Tour 22, Testament, Exodus, Death Angel, but I'm here to bring the low end to metal.
All hope is lost, lover's been blown away, it's pouring down, one holy acid rain, forever raining blood.
Well, starting out in the metal scene, I was a young lad. Grew up in the Bay Area of California, which was kind of the nest, where the nest egg hatched of thrash metal. We had obviously Metallica, we had Testament, Violence, Forbidden Evil, Sadus, Hex, Possessed, Death Angel. I go on and on and on. A lot of bands came out of that area, so every weekend was a show. You either played or you showed up and supported, and it was a good educational experience to be around all these guys, seeing everyone doing it. Everyone tried to put their own spin, put their own angle on it, and that's where I cut my teeth coming up out of the Bay Area. When the music we were playing started out, it was really just kind of lightly called speed metal, and I think we got that term more from like Iron Maiden, who was around Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, bands like that just started calling their music heavy metal, and Iron Maiden was a little bit faster version of it, so they kind of called themselves speed metal. So we were following along the lines of like Accept and Slayer, Anvil, Exciter, these type of bands that were all playing this kind of speed metal. And what thrash was what the crowd was doing while we were playing. So thrash was really the reaction of our music. And it wasn't an organized merry-go-round circle. It was just this random chaotic beehive of people kicking the shit out of each other. And sometimes they would dogpile, and the dogpile would roll up like a blob across the front monitor wedges, and it was just craziness. And so when the magazines were referring to these shows and the type of music we did, they called it thrash because they seen this crazy crowd stuff. So we kind of inherited this name thrash metal because of what it made the people do thrash. And now there's so many subgenres and all these titles that it's kind of limiting now. But yeah, that's kind of how it came to be, because I think the term thrash really came from the skateboard society, from riding the half pipes and empty pools and stuff way back when like DRI and crossover bands were coming up like that, creating this kind of crowd reaction. But yeah, some old grandpa storytelling there for you. Start with kind of the negative side of what's evolved is really it's a lot of I can do it too stuff. When we were younger, everybody really tried hard to put their own spin on something. I know every new band wasn't completely original, but there was a little more effort to find something to kind of create an identity away from kind of what inspired you and influenced you to get to where you were. And now it's kind of more accepted that bands are just kind of doing more of the same, and it's getting really flooded out and saturated with the same kind of stuff. But I can flip that, and the positive side is, with the internet and YouTube and stuff, the talent is so much easier to find out there. In the old days, we might have not have heard from a lot of good musicians because they didn't get a lucky break to be in a band, they got notoriety or something. So now somebody who's not even in a band could play along, do a playthrough, you know, in their own music room, and we could see this kind of stuff. So with all the technology, you know, there's information's more readily available, more widespread, and that works for younger bands too that aren't getting label attention. They can develop their own following on their own, and you know, so yeah, it goes both ways, good and bad, but we'll focus on the good, you know, and I like a lot of the new music coming out. There's a lot of talent out there, and I'm glad it's getting a chance to shine.
Tell me, fears right down. You think you're not understand. An excuse to cover.
We have the hippie of doom, Steve DiGiorgio on fretless bass. Let's hear it, people.
Of weaknesses that lie within.
It was probably about I think the Mutilation demo is 86. So any time after that, late 86, early 87, I was in a band called Sadus. And on our demo tape, had our guitar player's phone number for booking shows or parties, whatever. So we're just rehearsing one day, Sadus, and we get done rehearsing, go to Bernadube, and phone rings, goes and answers. He comes back and he goes, "Man, weirdest call ever. This guy said he's in a band called Death. They're 2 towns over, you know, about a 10-minute drive. They like our music. They want us to come out, watch their band play, and just hang out, you know, have a couple beers or something." We're like, hey, what do we got to lose? You know, we never heard of a band called Death, you know, who knew? And so we drove out there, and they played in the drummer's bedroom, and the bed was pushed up against the wall and had the drums set up in the corner, and he had one guitar amp for his guitar, and he had one guitar amp. The microphone went in. It was just the 2 guys, and they went through a bunch of songs that were right off the Mutilation demo. We were like, holy crap, this is great for 2 guys, you know, and you know, the drummer was still in high school, but you know, Chuck was out, and we would go out, you know, drink 12 packs and hang out and talk music, and they became big fans of our band. We became big fans of their band, and we eventually started sharing rehearsal space, and because of this swap over from a 4-guy band to a 2-guy band, the one common thing they were missing over there was a bass player. So I just kind of went back and forth between the 2 bands and just lend them a bass player, and eventually we just got real close. And you know, obviously people know history. Me and Chuck we worked together on 7 of his 9 total albums in some form or another. You know, sometimes I would just go out and do pre-production and help during the composition phase. Sometimes I'd ride it out to the studio. Sometimes I'd even stick around and do the whole touring cycle. But each album has its own, you know, unique situation. But I was with him and in the lineup until the day he died, and you know, all the way back from, like I said, I think we were 17, 18 years old when we met. So yeah, I was a big part of the band's history, and tight with Chuck. I mean, we would do stuff outside of music too. We would just go canoeing. Like Florida's got all these cool rivers and jungles, and we'd just go canoeing and adventuring. Or if you come to California, we go hiking in the hills and stuff. So we like to do stuff outside music too. So we were pretty tight. I had the easy part because Chuck was the visionary. He wrote the stuff. But what made it easy on me is he wasn't limiting in any way. He pushed for individuality. Like all the crazy bass and drums and all the soloing you hear on his albums by other guys, that's Chuck saying go for it. You know, he wanted quality on his album. He wasn't challenged by people. He felt quite secure surrounding himself with people that were more talented than him as a player, because he had a bigger vision for his music, and because he was always saying like, oh, I like the way that is, but maybe give me a little more, do something a little more outside the box. You know, that was part of my developmental years, and that voice has always been in my head telling me push it. So it was easy for me, you know, in one regard, because I could just be, you know, as abstract as I wanted to, and he was right there saying yeah. And you know, there was a couple times maybe I crossed a line or stepped on a vocal line, and he would say, hey, you know, back off. He wasn't totally, you know, outlandish. He knew where stuff belonged, and if you played in that formula, you were free to do what you wanted. So it was a great place to go create, because he really welcomed creativity.
Your face is hiding deep inside my mind. Your touch
the phone. He called me up. He said, last guy's out again, so I need you back. And for Control Denied album, he overnighted me a cassette, and right after all the song titles he wrote on the cassette label, it said, hey, just kicked out the bass player, need you to learn this as fast as possible, get out here, record it. So I called him and I was like, hey, the songs sound great, man. Let me listen to it for a couple of weeks, let it soak in. I'll come out, we'll go over it. We'll go through it, gradually. And he's like, no. He goes, we're way past the deadline. This album's already been final mixed. I got pissed at the last guy, so I went all the way back to the studio and erased his bass parts. So now I'm fucked. I need you to come here tomorrow, and we need to get this done now. Because he goes, we're already over our deadline. I was like, holy crap. How am I supposed to learn it so quick? So I went out, and when I got there, Chuck had actually left for radiation treatment in New York. So I felt even more empty-handed, But Shannon, the guitar player, was cool enough to help me find my way through the riffs and explain how songs were changing and stuff. And I worked with him real quick, a couple days with him, and sitting in his living room just trying to learn that stuff, and then immediately off to the studio and work with Jim Morris. And we would call Chuck with updates and, hey, listen, we got this far. And he was real pleased with how I was kind of replacing the bass lines, and it was cool. But it was the one and only time I went to Florida to record, and Chuck wasn't there. So it was kind of eerie. I guess in the old days, things were a lot different. Nobody had cell phones in their pockets, and so we felt a little more unhinged. The attachment to home wasn't there. And we'd get into trouble, and we would adventure. Like, being from the West Coast, there's not a lot of old buildings there. It's a newer side of the country. So when we would go to the Midwest, Milwaukee, or we'd go out, up in Hartford, Connecticut, or something, there'd always be like these old buildings, old theaters, and we'd always get in and adventure around, and get lost and be in places we shouldn't be. And of course, we go up there, find a place to get loaded, and then we get lost coming out and that kind of stuff. I know it's not a super specific story, but just generally just getting lost and in trouble, just kind of exploring the world. It was kind of some of the funner stuff I remember. We tried to keep from breaking the law, though. Well, yeah, now in current times, now that we're older, Testament has been around the world so many times that we're looking for a little bit more unique areas to go play. Like a few years back, we played in Borneo in Indonesia, and just before the lockdown, I don't know, late, I think December of 19, we got to go to Kathmandu in Nepal. And that was, those kind of places are really rare. Bands rarely go there. And when you get there, you really see these people that watch the rest of the world get tours every year, and they never have it. So they come out and it's off the hook, So these rare remote places, they're a little bit risky to go to because they're not used to the pattern. They don't have the normal amenities that we're used to getting, but the trade-off is like, wow, look where we are, man. This is weird, So yeah, it's really cool. When the lockdown was coming out, we were scheduled to play Thailand. That's a rare one for people to go to. Now that got canceled, obviously, but they're trying to rebook that thing and make it happen. So kind of looking forward to going to Thailand,
That's so cool to hear about the worldwide metal community.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like what's that country like? What are those people like? What's it like? And you get there and you're like, oh, fucking metalheads, man. That's the one thing that's exactly consistent no matter what place in the world we go to is the metal scene. It is just, it's so eerily familiar no matter where you go. It's kind of like this nation that just covers the globe that agrees, complete brotherhood. They look the same, the vests with the patches, the spikes, and just it's metal, and it looks the same no matter what the people are. And that's one comforted thing, because we go through a lot of airports, stay in a lot of strange hotels, we try a lot of weird food, we learn, what different currency looks like, is that the president? I don't know who the hell that, a bunch of weird stuff. But once you go to the show, then it all settles in and becomes just a regular metal show, and that's great. What keeps me inspired? I guess kind of like what I was just talking about, the enthusiasm of the metal crowd. They still need it. we still need it. We're all metal fans. We're fans of each other, and we are the lifeblood of our own scene. You know, we keep it alive. And so when we get that energy trade-off, when we feel that enthusiasm come back from what we deliver, it just reminds us, like, man, we ain't done yet at all. You know, it's alive and well. And it's cool because it was brand new in the 80s, you know, and new bands were coming out, and then the underground was created, and it seemed to just die off mid-90s. And once it came back, I don't know exactly, 99, 2000, but around that time, it seems like it's never died out, never went down. It just gets stronger and stronger. And bands like us that have been around 30 plus years, we're just as relevant as ever, you know, and it's a blessing, you know, and that pretty much keeps me going, you know, because we do what we're good at, we do what we do well, and we just keep doing it, you know, because the mundane life just ain't for us, man. I think on the surface, you could easily say, well, it's the raw form of the music. It's what gets you through the day. Those type of answers are easy to do, but I think it's the community because, like I said, with the foreign countries, different cultures, I think even town to town in the same country, and that's, you know, that camaraderie, that brotherhood of agreeing and liking the same thing, man, that keeps it strong because, you know, everybody likes what they like, but when you know, it's obviously when you can enjoy it together, it becomes more fun, you know, and especially a type of music where you can go have a couple drinks, beat the shit out of each other in a friendly way, shake hands, go have another drink, you know, it's a unique thing, you know. You hear other concerts getting shut down for violence, or, you know, just there's crazy stuff going on there, and you see thrash metal, and you're like, this could be interpreted as the most violent, but really it's not. It's so organized, and you know, it's just this mutual agreement that security's great now. When we were younger, security was pretty vicious with people coming over the top and stuff, but now it's so ingrained that they know, they just catch and release, and they're really cool about it. And you just see this, people just getting rid of all their frustrations and aggressions and enjoying music. That's what keeps everybody into it, because it's a big just pile of awesome violence. Metal's meat and potatoes, right? I mean, you got to have fast drums, thunderous bass, you know, buzzing riffs, and a vocalist that could, you know, cut glass. And as long as you got those elements, I think everybody feels the metal. And you know, there's 9 trillion bands that do that stuff, and they do it in their own way. So I think you keep it pretty simple. I enjoy just talking about the music and the crowd. You know, questions are good, but I don't have anything really need to reach for. I'm not so special. I'm a fucking bass player who likes playing metal, so you know, I don't got anything that special to say. But I love talking about my memories, so stuff like that's fun.
Well, it was great to hear from you. Thank you so much.
All right, buddy.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.